Let's see. Praise God. Okay. We are here on live with both TikTok as well as with YouTube and Facebook live. And so I just want to share for a few minutes. Some of you are going to watch the rerun of this, and I want to encourage you because um, all of us have people in our lives that are some levels of toxicity. And so that's what I want to talk to you about here for a few minutes here today. And hey, Paul, how you doing, brother? Bless you. If you want to jump on here, man, let me know. Dealing with the subject of toxic people, especially this time of year over the holidays, it can tend to be a time that it's almost like verbal abuse central because people have relatives and family members and whatever neighbors and stuff like that that can have levels of toxicity. And so if that's you, if you have a family member that is very toxic, huge favor, write in the comments, write the word family, will you? Write the word family. I'd love to see that. Hey, Sean, God bless you. Hey, Sharon. Yeah, people who can't share your joy. Absolutely. I'm going to go into some toxic behaviors and then how you can deal with it. How can you deal with it? Not just over the holidays, but just moving forward in 2024. So, all right. So, as if you have some toxic relatives of one way or another, I want to cover this today and some level of or another. Okay. So let's just start off with toxic behavior. Let's just kind of dive into one, two, three, four, five. I have six different behaviors that tend to, uh, um, let me see. I'm just writing notes down here. And so I want to bring some of these up and just kind of deal with them one by one. So if you have a family member or a friend that's a real toxic situation, write in the comments below, write the word family if it's a family member. Yeah, I understand, Sharon. Your dad. Yeah. Hey, James from Edmonton. God bless you. Hey, Pastor. Good to see you there in Hawaii. Um, praise the Lord. Yeah, James, I get it, brother. Trust me. Been there, done that, bought the t shirt. So, toxic behavior. So, some things regarding toxic behavior I want to bring up to you just for a minute. Toxic behavior looks a little bit different in everybody. Okay. And so sometimes we just overlook it because it's a father, it's a mother, it's a brother, it's a sister, it's a cousin, it's an aunt, it's an uncle, grandparents, whatever it might be, or even maybe your children, or it could be even it could be an in-law. You understand? So it can be any of those, as well as it can be people that you work with. So there's kind of no real cookie cutter who it is or what they look like. Okay. So but just kind of dealing with this here, I want to talk about this. So the number one toxic behavior that I scratched down is ignoring other people's boundaries. Ignoring boundaries. Maybe it's with your children, and it's a parent or it's an in-law or a grandparent or a sibling, and they just have no boundaries. They just don't know any boundaries, and they just are always given their opinions. Now, there's an old saying about opinions. Opinions are like armpits. Everyone's got them, but some of them stink. Okay. So opinions are like armpits. Everyone's got some, but some of them stink. You understand? And that's why people that are toxic, they ignore other people's boundaries. They don't care. because oh, okay. Hey, Rugs, I see that. Oh, hey, awesome. Good to see you, Paul. Jump on with me here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, brother?
I hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah, I hear you.
so I'm just bringing up, Paul, some different toxic boundaries, and I would love to hear some of your input. And I'm going to try to work it out where our friends on YouTube and Facebook can hear some of this as well. Though you can't see our friend Paul, he's on our TikTok account. I want you to be able to hear some of his input as well. So, number one, toxic people ignore boundaries, right? They just because at the core they're selfish people, right?
Right.
So what do you think, Paul? What do you feel about that, brother?
Yeah. I think one of the ways for me in my own life has been learning how to create my own boundaries
Yes.
with the toxic people that I deal with. You know, one of the hardest things for me, Tom, was to learn was that it was okay to say no.
Yeah. So those of you on Facebook and YouTube didn't hear that. Our dear friend Paul just shared this. He said he had to learn how to create boundaries and learn that it's okay to say no. That was the hardest thing for me too, Paul, because my dad, God bless him, he's in heaven, but my dad, it was so toxic. Oh man. And it was like I always felt like literally walking through a landmine. You couldn't talk about this, you couldn't talk about politics, you couldn't talk about God. You couldn't talk about anything. Just like it was like a time bomb ready to go off. And yeah, so it was. I know the feeling. Please continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good. But one of the things was I had to realize it wasn't like unspiritual to create boundaries. I felt like for the longest time I always had to say yes, especially to family.
Yes.
Because if I didn't say yes, then I wasn't being Jesus-like.
Yep.
And then one day I'm like, Holy Spirit, I need help on this. Like, what does this look like? And God showed me a scripture, and it was just this portion of scripture that helped me. But you remember when Peter, James, and John, they went and to raise up the young girl?
Yeah.
And when they went to raise her up, it said the crowd was heckling.
Yes.
Them, right? And Jesus turns around and tells Peter, shut the door.
That's right.
I got the revelation that day that, you know, there's certain times it's okay to shut the door. Jesus wasn't shutting the door on the people. He come and to die for the people. He loved the people, but he knew that there was a moment in time he was about certain business that he had to shut the door on those individuals at that moment.
Yes.
But then he had to reopen that door too and deal with the people again.
Yeah.
Right. But for me, it was just knowing that Jesus knew how to set boundaries as being the savior of the world.
Yes.
And using his example that, you know, sometimes it's okay to understand when to shut doors, when not to shut doors, that it wasn't unspiritual to have to shut a door.
Right.
You know,
or this one that, you know, how did my dad used to even say it sometimes, because he didn't want any boundaries, and I'm not just picking on him, he's in heaven now, God bless him, but it was just such a great example, and so my dad would say things, well, you know, Jesus wouldn't do that, or Jesus wouldn't say this, or, and I'm like, well, first off, when's the last time you picked up the Bible? and so you don't even touch your Bible. So how is it that you know all about the ways of Jesus? You know what I mean? So, but so I got 6 ways, things I want to bring up. Okay, so 6 different things. So number 1, ignoring others' boundaries. That this is toxic behavior, and then I have a few things that we can cover about what you and I can do to deal with toxic people, especially going into the holidays. And so number 2, I just wrote this down. These are not in any particular order. A toxic person always has erratic behavior. Like there's no stability in their life. Like one day they're angry, the next day they're depressed, the next day they're happy, the next day they're angry. And so it's so erratic. it's not at all Psalms chapter 1, right? There's no stability in their lives, and it's very erratic. What do you feel, Paul, about that? What do you think?
Well, I'm laughing inside because I'm like, the things you're describing sound like me in some places in my life. So I'm like, I wonder some cases maybe the toxicity is me learning to deal with learning how to not to be these things myself. Because
Sure.
sometimes when you are those things, you attract who you're, you attract those people around
Sure.
you according to who you are and
Yeah.
the way you act is as well. So that's the first thought that came to my mind.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, all of us can use more stability. Everybody that's here on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. I mean, every one of us, but these people, these toxic people, they just don't have a humble bone in their body most of the time. Most of the time, it's like they ignore boundaries. It's just so selfish. Everything is about selfishness and belittling other people. And so I've seen where people who are toxic, they'll even do things, and I didn't even write this one down, is that they can tend to be they'll put others down, okay, to lift themselves up. But it's really not one of the ones I put down. But which kind of brings up number 3. I hate to bring this one up, but they always ask for money. Another sign. Now, this isn't all toxic people, but some toxic people, and especially relatives, they see you with some nice clothes. They see you with, a new vehicle, a new job. You're excited. You got a new job, whatever it might be. And then all of a sudden they see a little bit of money, and then bang, they start asking for money. Or, hey, I really would like that. Oh, you got a new phone? Hey, wow, I wish I could do that. Must be nice. You know what I mean? Because there's the typical words from a toxic person. Must be nice to be you, and because they can't rejoice with someone else because they're so selfish.
Yeah, so good. I think something that's important to add to that is sometimes those things are inevitable. Like they're just
Right.
gonna happen.
Right.
But I guess for me, I'm thinking like in my mind, like who do I gotta become to be able to steward that?
Right.
Meaning that, like, how do I not let that affect me?
Mm.
Like, right. And being able to understand that there's just going to be those people, there's always, we're going into the holidays. Every single one of us is probably going to sit down at the table with someone that's like fingernails on the chalkboard.
Yep.
They're a part of our family. They got to be at the table with us.
Yep.
We would rather not, but we do because they're family. We love them. We just can't stand them. You know what I mean? There's always that individual.
Right.
And at the end of the day, who do I got to become to be able to steward that moment, in that? Because those things are going to be inevitable. And when you're blessed, darkness is going to attract to light.
Yep.
And so you understand that God's blessing and favors is being magnified to the point to where they're being vocal about it. So like in some cases, it's almost like I have to learn how to handle that and understand that this is the carnal mind speaking to me.
Yeah.
And got to know how to deal with them and to set boundaries on them, but also being able to discern like, hey, this person's in a different place. They're not mentally, stable right now.
Right.
They're in a victim mentality.
Totally victim mentality. Totally.
Yeah. And they're not willing to, even if for me, I'm like, hey, I could show you how to do this.
Right.
They don't want to listen.
No, they don't. And that's the funniest thing with in fact, I'm going to get to that victim mindset too, but it's funny with somebody that's toxic, they don't see their toxicity. And it's literally, what it reminds me of, it kind of shows my age, but some of you that are on all these platforms, you remember the cartoon Snoopy and you remember Pigpen. Well, Pigpen, wherever he went, it was like a cloud around him. And so when he would stop, it would just kind of envelop everybody. And that's kind of the traits of a toxic person. A toxic person, they're not just toxic with you, they're toxic with their spouse, they're toxic at work, they're toxic to their neighbors. I mean, it's crazy. But okay, so let's see. So number one, they ignore boundaries. Two, erratic behavior. Three, they often ask for money. Four, I'd never heard this word before, but I found this from a psychiatrist or psychologist, is the word gaslighting. I never knew what that meant. It just makes, what it means is it makes you question your sanity. You think you're nuts. You think that you're the problem. Some of you watching this, you think, maybe I'm the problem here. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm the problem here and stuff. And instead, oh wow, Yvonne on Facebook, she said she left her state to get away from a toxic family member. Wow. Yeah. And so, but gaslighting is often their way of defending their toxicity, and they make you feel like you're nuts. That's gaslighting. I didn't know that's what gaslighting was. Had you ever heard that word, Paul?
Yeah, I have. Being an ex professional narcissist, gaslighting was a tool that's used by narcissist type people, right? And we know how to manipulate. We know how to wordplay. We know how to control a situation. This didn't even realize I was doing that.
Wow.
It was a weird thing. I was just doing it without even realizing it. And I think it was just the way I was taught, the way I was raised, the way I thought, coming from the streets, and all that stuff, selling drugs for 20 years of my life, being raised with a drug addict family, with other things going on. You know what I mean? It was just, I learned how to manipulate my way through life and how to tell people what they wanted to hear to get what I wanted. And I knew how to manipulate people's emotions to give me what I need. And I've just become really, really, really good at it as a narcissist, right? But a narcissist is great at gaslighting. We know how to do that really well. But no, we never use that terminology. As of late, learning what that term was.
I'd never heard that word before. But I saw it happening in family members. Somebody on my TikTok went and just wrote they got out of a toxic marriage because of all the gaslighting. Wow. All right. So number 5, I scratched down, or number 6, whatever it is. Often they'll invalidate other people's feelings just to stir up drama. So they'll your feelings are irrelevant to a toxic person. And so what do? They make you feel like, oh, it doesn't matter what your feelings are, it's them. You understand? And we would like for example, a great example back to it again is if the Lord blessed us, we were afraid to wear something that God blessed us with, or I've actually talked to some people at some churches, and they'll say this is that there's so many toxic people in their church, they won't wear something new. They won't drive their new vehicle. They won't. And it's like, wow, that is so, it's not just a poverty mentality. It's a toxic mentality.
Can I just share a story real quick?
Please.
This just happened to us in our house. So I'm going to be like really, we were literally like, don't take a picture of the Christmas tree because people will see the gifts and they might like, have weird thoughts about the gifts they see in the Christmas tree.
Right.
Like that was a literal, like, my wife and I had that conversation. Like,
isn't that funny? I saw yours. I thought it looked beautiful. I loved it. And somebody that doesn't have, what's the word? They don't have this toxic thing in their heart. They rejoice with you. If you get a new job, somebody who you're watching this right now, and if you get a new job and you're blessed and you're driving something new, man, Paul and I, we rejoice with you. We say, man, keep going, and may the Lord give you 2 of them, but especially with finances, Typically, toxic people, that's just an area that reveals who they really are on the inside. Which brings up number 6. Paul already brought this up perfectly. They're a perpetual victim and they need constant attention. That's not my words of a toxic person. That's from, I think it was Gary Smalley. I got these, and he's a Christian psychiatrist, and so he brought these up, that they typical toxic people. Some of you are going to be going to holiday dinners and family dinners and work dinners and all of this, and the toxic people, especially if you start to mix alcohol in there, I mean, it's a slippery slope down, you know what I mean? And yeah. And so, but I brought up a few things, what do you do as a believer to deal with people that are like this? And Paul, jump in anytime. What do I do? What do I do with a toxic person? I don't know. I just scratch this down. You have to just stand strong and just let them walk away, and just, in other words, you're not engaging in their pity party and, you know what I mean? And in their toxicity, you just stand strong, let those people walk away. Don't you agree, Paul?
I do 100%. I think one of the important things, like I was saying in the very beginning, was you have to be able to understand it's okay for you to create boundaries.
Love it.
And the best place to create boundaries, for me at least, and I'm just speaking from my own lifestyle here, growing through this myself, is because off that list, we hear that list and I come out, like, we are all honest watching this right now, like, how many of us can see a certain area somewhere in there that we even are dealing with something on that list, right? So my thing is like, I look at it like, okay, when I have to create boundaries for my own life. So what is it that the solution to this boundary? Well, one of them for me was understanding that God is very straightforward.
Yeah.
He's not a gray area person. Like, meaning this, he wants your yes to be yes, your no to be no.
Yes.
He would rather you just say yes or no, rather than to play the gray area part. And a lot of times I find that in my own life, I would play the gray area part because I was trying to please people.
Yes.
This is one I want to put on the list here, because one of the things that you have to understand is that pleasing people, being a people pleaser, is there needs to even be boundaries in that as well, because we can actually be people pleasers to the point to where we create an idol out of it, where we begin to idolize things. But when we understand that our pleasing people is being able to love them regardless,
right?
You have to understand when to say yes and when to say no, and understand when we say no, we see the world hears no, Tom, and they hear rejection. And so somebody's a victim when they hear no, it's rejection. They're being rejected. You're rejecting them.
Yeah.
They don't understand no is like, hey, I'm busy right now. I got this going on. So oftentimes when I'm dealing, I want to share with you how I learned to deal with people knowing this and going through this myself. So when I have somebody come over to my house or somebody I'm dealing with, and I know they're dealing with this and they're something like this, I'll do this. I'll say, man, I would love to do that, but let me explain something real quick. I got this, this, and this. So I hope you can understand why I have to humbly reject and say no.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm telling you no. It's just that I can't do this. See, I will explain it like that because I sympathize with them. I know where they're at carnally, so I want to meet them carnally with the spiritual reality. So I explain it. So sometimes just, giving a little explanation to your no helps them to digest and helps them to grow.
Yes.
Because ultimately we don't want them to stay stuck there. We want them to grow through
it.
And if you understand there's a weakness, you can use a simple little activation tool like that to help them through that process as well.
Yes, absolutely. I love it. And, Paul brought up a great point. Those of you who couldn't hear that on Facebook or YouTube, is that you're not going to please these people. So the best thing you can do is to, with a light explanation, at times you have to decline, like they'll say, oh, we need you to come over for this, and that. And, oh, Johnny, he's in baseball for sure. You want to come to all of his baseball games. And Sally, she's in ballerina. You have nothing going on. whatever. And so come to Sally's things, that's what would happen with me with much of the time with some of our family. They'd be like, well, why can't you come to this family event? Well, since 1986, I've been a full-time preacher. And so that means Sundays I'm busy. And guess when they would do the family events? Always on a Sunday. And so then they would say that, oh, you don't want to be with the family and blah, 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 blah. And you're not being with the family. I'm trying to teach you to be a family. And it's like, it's not that we don't want to. It's just a matter of that's one of the things that we sacrifice as ministers is that we are ministering on that time. You know what I'm saying? So that was one thing I always wrestled with especially my dad and with others as well. So you can't please them. I love that, Paul, which brings up a great one. You have to protect your family by boundaries. When I saw that from, I think it was Gary Smalley, I got these from, I was like, absolutely. I wish I could tell my younger self this 30 some years ago, because it would just cut out so much junk. And like Paul said, dealing with people with the carnal mind, they don't hear that. They just hear no is rejection, and they just equate no is rejection. No means, I'm not important. Well, that's not it. It's just, I can't, and yeah, your thoughts about protecting your family, Paul.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and so, just one of the keys to protecting your family is to, in my humble opinion, is to really, if you don't have a good relationship with your family, it's going to be hard to protect them.
Right.
So for me, when it comes to protecting my family, I'm protecting our family values. I'm not like protecting my family from, a family member, because we're dealing, people are obviously close to us, right? That
sure.
Are toxic.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of what the theme of this is, and having to deal with it, but the thing is when you have vision, when your family has vision, when you have direction, when you have clarity, communication going on, when you understand who you are as a family, right, that gives you an opportunity to understand your direction. So you understand, like, as a family, how to communicate. You understand your yes is yes, your no is no, why you do certain things. So I want to challenge you, if you don't, it's good to sit down, not only to have a personal vision, for what you and your family are doing, but have a family oriented one, like, right, that's with your family as a group, as a goal, that the whole family's going together in a direction. It's something my wife and I have been working on ourselves. It's easier said than done, by the way, especially when you got a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. But at the end of the day, we have that. So then now my family understands, like, hey, this is what we do here. This is what we do there. This is game night. This is family night. There's our Bible study times. This is this thing. This is that. This is what we do on this time. This is what dad does. This is what mom. And we all kind of communicate that, right?
Yep.
So then we're on the same page. So it's not so much. I think what will take away the fear of man,
right,
is knowing what the game plan is. That you're just illustrating to people what you do, when you do it, and how you do it. And it'll eliminate the fear, because the fear of man comes in when you're trying to be a people pleaser.
Yeah.
Like, right. And so the end of the day, you have to understand that you have your family, they're your obligation.
Right.
When you have a vision, you're not rejecting anybody, not saying no. You're just saying, hey, me and my family have this. We have this set time. We do this. This is how we do it. We function together, right? Or, hey, let me take that thought. Let me take it to the family. Let me talk about it, and we'll see if we can fit that in our schedule. We're pretty busy, but let me see what we can do. If not, maybe we can schedule time later, or we can do this or do that, whatever it is, right?
Right.
But when it comes to family, I think getting the family involved and having a family vision, will help you to be able to release things. You're going to be more confident. You're not going to feel so guilty, or you're not going to let somebody else's guilt or victimize you and make you feel like you're not doing something right. But because you have family values, you have direction, focus, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I just had someone ask a question, Karina, great question. How should one deal with siblings that compare their relationship with you to your friends, as they always have to be the first to know and the first to be invited. And so, you know, it's a little bit of a level of toxicity there because, you know, siblings, we grow up, and though we came from the same mother or the same father or whatever, um, you know, still we change. People change, and change doesn't mean bad, and change doesn't always mean good. It just means people change. And so just because you share blood and DNA doesn't mean that, you know, that that sibling is the very closest person to you, because you may you may actually find yourself closer to a dear friend, you know, than even your own siblings, because of just loves and wants and things for your life and stuff like that. But I think it's a great thing. But you know, let me say this about family and boundaries is, protecting your family. Let me just say this, and I don't know if this is a word from the Lord. I think the Lord for somebody is that if you're married, you have to protect your spouse. Men, you have to protect your wives. And most men are a little bit more thick-skinned, but even still, ladies, you got to protect your husbands. And what do I mean by that? In other words, you're going to family, what do you call them, gatherings, lunches, dinners, whatever it might be, and you got to have each other's back. In other words, you're not someone, you know, your spouse is not your mother or father's or brother or sister's punching bag, or the, you know, the end of a joke, you know what I mean, a sick joke just because they want to be funny. And you know, that's what I appreciate with both Susie and I, is that we've always protected each other. And I've actually had to stand up to some family, and I've actually had to stand up to some other people and say, "Hey, listen, nope, this, we're not going to have this. I'm not going to tolerate this. You're not going to abuse my wife." And Susie's done the same, you know, as well. And so she's always had, you know, my back as well. And so, and that's the beauty. And so I don't want to get too much into detail here, but it's, you know, we have to do the same with our kids, right, Paul? I mean, we got to protect our kids, because, you know, it's, you know, just because we're with family doesn't mean that they get to run their insecurities over you like a lawnmower and just clean your clock so they leave feeling better about themselves. So I really want to bring that up because I've seen that so many times. I've actually counseled people, married people, and I've had more, I'll just be honest, more on the female side say, he never sticks up for me to his siblings or to his parents. And I'm the blunt end of every joke. And so I don't want to go over there anymore. And so, you know, if you won't stick up for them to those that are your blood, who are you gonna stick up for them? You know what I mean? And so, but so what do you do? You know, so we started this. What do you do with, how do you deal with toxic people? Number one, we said, stand strong, let them walk away. All right. So you just stand strong. It's not, you know, ridicule, rip down. You're not their punching bag. Jesus died for them. You don't have to. And then two, like Paul said beautifully, you can't please them anyway because they're functioning in a carnal mind. Now, I'm not saying all your family. I'm just saying some of those toxic people. You understand? And then three, you got to protect your family with boundaries. And I've done that. I mean, I've done that on more than one occasion. And I said, oh, nope, not going to happen anymore. Right here, that's the line. And it was very difficult for me to do that, but I had to because it was unhealthy. You understand? Which brings number four, you got to control the encounter with toxic people. You have to control it, right, Paul?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to add something real quick
Please.
to what you were saying
Please.
just a second ago, if I can, real quick, because this is such an important topic. I think also with siblings, especially those of you that are parents right now that are raising kids, and I'm just speaking this from hands-on experience in my own life and how I handled it. You know, one thing is with my children is I communicate well with them. I'm a very busy individual.
Yeah.
I work probably 14, 16-hour days. I put a lot of time. I'm busy. Social media as a content creator, I'm just swamped busy, and I'm doing stuff. And I work from home. So they always see me working, but they're always at home. And I'm always, you know what I mean? So I've learned that communicating well with them has helped them to be able to understand those boundaries. And I'm trying to teach them now, so hopefully they can apply them when they get older. Right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the things that you're dealing with now are things that you've dealt with a lot of times throughout the years, and it's just this thing that's repetitious. So as parents, I think we can prepare our kids to train them to have those boundaries. And this is the way I do it personally, but it doesn't mean you have to do it this way. I'm just sharing my journey with you.
Yeah.
And you glean from me and take it to Holy Spirit. But one thing that I do is I communicate well with my kids, and I tell them this, that, you know, I don't love you all the same. I don't love my daughter like I love my son.
Sure.
I love them because I'm their parent and I love them and they're my children. But my love for them is different.
Sure.
I can't lie before the Holy Spirit. My love for my daughter can't be anything like my love for my son.
Right.
And my love for my son is nothing like my love for my daughter. And because I love them differently doesn't mean one's better than another. And I communicate with this. It doesn't mean it's not carnal. I tell them this, it's not carnal, it's spiritual love. Spiritual love loves in the uniqueness of the distinction.
Yes.
So I don't get lost in the distinction. I find Jesus in the distinction, and
Love
I
it.
love that about you.
Love it.
Now, what I love about you is different than what I love about Agapius, or I love about my other son, Joby, or my other daughter, Naomi. I love you uniquely different. And so I tell them right up front, like, this isn't about a carnal scale of me loving one more than the other. I love you differently. Sometimes those of you that spend more time with me get more of my attention. Those of you that choose not to, you don't. Right?
Right.
It's because you're choosing not to engage me. And when we're having family fun night and you just want to be on your phone and you want to be on there, and I'm telling you to come down here and hang out with us, and you're upset because you got to go, listen, that's your own emotions dealing with this thing. I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm wanting to do it, but you're choosing a different route. Like, right? And I'll be expressive. I say, look, now you think about what you're doing. You're going to make this choice right now.
Right.
But this choice is your choice. You're choosing to be on that phone. You're choosing to do this. Right?
Or play video games, right?
So I'm creating this boundary, but I'm communicating well with them in that boundary, right? So they understand. So I don't want to get off on that too much, you know, even though I might force them to come and do it, I let them know that, hey, you're upset at me, it's okay, I understand, but you have to understand this is the boundary in which, I communicate well with them in that. And sometimes I understand, like, my daughter is totally different. My daughter is very techy.
Yeah.
She's a robot. She loves to build robots. She loves techie stuff. She's into making money. She's already got her own investment accounts. She thinks different. My son, he just like blocks and building blocks and doing this stuff. And he's like climbing over the top of the games when we're trying to, like, they're just different, like, right? So I become all things to all men that I can reach them where they are. So I will spend time uniquely. Now, my daughter gets a lot more attention sometimes than my son because she likes a lot of things I like.
Right.
Right. So I have a tendency. It doesn't mean I love them different.
Right.
But I have to go out of my way. Now, here's the catch. I have to go out of my way to do things with my son because he does things I'm not interested in.
Right.
I got to do anyways, right? Because I'm dad,
right?
And I learned how to do that. So I hope that helps you in evaluating, putting together things, you know, and boundaries within your family. Sometimes we need to train them when they're young so they understand through good communication and they get good direction. And then this will help them to process when they get older and they look back and they understand, you know, this isn't a competitious thing.
Yeah.
Like, right? This is actually, I can identify why I connect here this way and why I connect to my son differently. Now, my son is getting into sports and baseball and football like young now. He's up my alley. I played football for 10 years. I love that. Like, right? So we connect really well there where I connect really well with my daughter when we're doing these other things.
Right.
So we have a different type of love, because it's not just I love you, it's I love who you are, who you're becoming. I get to be a part of that. And over here, it's uniquely different. You get my point?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, it's a great way for people to understand that. I mean, right back at what we were talking about, controlling the encounter. So, with dealing with toxic people, which kind of brings up the last one I had for a point, is that when you're dealing with toxic people, um, you need to stay as calm as you can because you can find yourself trying to reason with somebody that is functioning as Paul said, in the carnal mind. And so when somebody's functioning in the carnal mind, common sense is, it's gone. You understand? So common sense is gone. Rational thinking is gone, and no matter how much you try to reason with a toxic person, you might as well be talking Mandarin Chinese to them because it's not penetrating. Because all they're hearing is, yeah, but you got more money, or yeah, but you've got a better opportunity, or yeah, but I was suppressed as a child, or whatever. And it's always the yeah, but. And so, many of you that are watching this, you're trying to reason with someone's carnal mind, and that's your frustration. And I hope that helps. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say this. Some people, you're going to watch this, and I know some of you have unhealthy relationships in your marriage. Different reasons. It can be unequally yoked together. Maybe he's not a believer, you are, or vice versa. It could be 1,000 things. But just know, no matter how much of the Bible you take and you throw it at their carnal mind, they're going like this, la 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 la. They don't want to hear it, because it takes them to hide the word in their own heart to change their own thinking, right? And so, and I've lived through this, not in my marriage, but in my some relationships and stuff, friendships, and even in some family issues and stuff. And so, and I sympathize with you. And I've talked to many of people that have contacted us, even like I said, about their spouse, and you just cry with them. You know what I mean, Paul? The last time I was there, we were ministering in Oregon. We did a marriage seminar. And so while we did this marriage seminar, all these people came up and they were just crying. One lady said, I can't even get him to come to a marriage seminar. He doesn't want to change, and he's basically wanting a porno star in the bedroom. And that's what he wants his wife to be. And then he doesn't want any other contact with her. And he thinks that's a good marriage. Well, that's not a good marriage. You know what I mean? Forgive me for being blunt, but that's just kind of what it was and stuff. And so, and others, it's verbally abusive. Others, it's mentally abusive. And so, yeah. So some of you, my heart goes out to you with that. It's a different element when you bring in a spouse, right, Paul?
Yeah. There's two sides of the story. There's two people in two different places sometimes, and it could be good, bad, and ugly on some.
Yeah.
How you say, staying calm, using self-control. In a lot of cases, self-control isn't this, guys. It's not becoming somebody's dust mat.
I love it. Okay, now wait a second. I got to repeat that. Okay, so Paul brought up a great point. So staying calm is not being somebody else's, would you say? Dust mat. In other words, they cannot just run you over like a truck. And And that may mean, you guys, that may mean you may have to walk away from a dinner or a family event or whatever. That's the only thing that can speak to it, is the moment you just say, nope, we're not going there again. Every year we do this. I'm your punching bag. My spouse is your punching bag. My kids are your punching bag. We're not doing that this year. And I promise you, if you in your mind and in your heart say, I'm going to stand up this year and I'm going to make some changes, I'm going to go into 2024 with boundaries. Right, Lisa? God bless you. I just saw that, boundaries. Yeah.
We had to do a similar thing, Tom, because my son, and so we have two families now. And one side of my family, we love hanging out with each other, by the way. We have great relationship with them. But we have traditions in our family.
Right.
And they got traditions. And now we're mixing tradition. And so now it's becoming a traditional issue. not a family issue. It's a traditional issue.
Right.
It's like last year Christmas was here, it's gotta be there. Thanksgiving's there. No, I want to hear my it's that kind of deal.
Right.
You know what I mean? So sometimes, it's learning how to stay calm in those moments.
Right.
And I'm just saying that because we're in Christmas holiday, Thanksgiving just finished, I think everybody has maybe some of that, and learning times of communication. So what happened to us in our life is we just sit down and said, hey, this is the way we've been doing Christmas. How have you been doing Christmas? How do you do things? And we're trying to integrate, because you know what, when you're well, for me, my son's integrating a whole nother family into our life that does things a whole completely different way.
Right.
So what we do is we allow their traditions and the way they do things to do it when we go to their house, and vice versa. Right.
Yeah.
But we communicated that, and then we game plan. Every year, if we do it this place 1 year, it's going to be here the next year.
Right.
So everybody knows ahead of time.
Right.
Even if I don't like the way they do it. We relax. We prepare our hearts to receive.
Yep.
Have a good time, and understand it's a new season, a new phase of life, and we get to experience something new in the Lord. Even with the families, some families aren't believers, right?
Yeah.
And like our case, family's not a believer.
Yeah. No, I mean, I totally agree. I think a lot of the people that are on here, both on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok, huge favor. Everyone give us a thumbs up, a like, hearts, or whatever it might be. If any of this has kind of helped you, just kind of, even just one or two nuggets that just kind of help encourage you that you're not crazy, and you're going in the right direction, and you're just going to make some boundaries, or and so but huge favor, just give us some likes, some love, some hearts, and all of that stuff, so at least we kind of know that we're kind of hitting some sensitive areas here and stuff. And and whatever platform you're on, please, if you're not our friend, be our friend, subscribe. That would be fantastic. Same thing, those of you on TikTok. If you don't know Paul, please go over and follow him. He's got a phenomenal ministry over there as well. And so, but I wrestled with this, Paul, for I'm 57 now. So 57 years, I had 54 years, 54 years ago, my parents divorced. And so for 54 years, I shouldn't say full 54 years, but about 50 years, I dealt with this. And you could taste the tension in the room sometimes. So, but a couple quick questions and then we'll wrap it up. Is that cool with you, Paul?
Sounds good.
Okay, so here's a couple questions here. How do you impart experiential knowledge to adult children without appearing to come across as being toxic? My feeling is it's hard because, they can be in that time of their lives where your adult children are like, listen, thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. I'll do it my way. I got it, and some is, you know, sometimes, you know, they can get in their adulthood and be like, hey, I want to hear, you know, what do I do in this situation? But my experience from what I've seen is most adult children kind of like want to pave their own way.
Right.
Oh, thanks. Hey, thanks, Kendra. Appreciate it. I appreciate that. Awesome. Okay. Here's another quick question. Praise God. Okay. So
Also, I just sort of chime in while you're looking there. Here's my thoughts on that is it begins in the home, in my opinion.
yes.
Like, I mean, I know it's different for each person, but because it's your children, I think it begins in the home. One of the things that I do is I take our everyday experiences that my kids are going through, and I will show them where that could be toxic and where that could lead,
Yes.
and how that train of thought and what that produces. And we begin to communicate about that. And I'll even ask them, have you ever seen anybody else do that before? Have you seen that before? What did it look like? How did it end?
Right.
Like, right. And I get them to process that. So sometimes just knowing is half of it, and then being able to connect their knowing with a real experience
Right.
allows them to really emotionally attach to it.
Yeah.
Right? And then also talking to your children about certain things that do happen that rise up,
Right.
and asking them, you know, what do you think would have been the great way to respond to that, or how would you have handled that? What do you think?
Right.
And all that does is training them to get in their mind how they can process and use it in everyday life.
So
right?
true. So true. And yeah, so I mean, I don't know, just from what I've seen is most of the time young adults are, you know, children, they tend to want to kind of learn a lot of those things on their own and stuff. So, but hey, listen, we got to run real quick, but we love you, and check out our subscribe to our channels, whatever platform you're watching this on. Check Paul out. Go to our website, sharethefire.org. Tons of free stuff. We're doing some giveaways and stuff, so go there and check it out. So
make sure to go follow Tom, guys. So we're watching here on TikTok. All of you go over and make sure to give Tom a follow. You're gonna be blessed by Tom. All right, Tom, we love you, man.
Love you, bro. Bless you guys. See you now.